When thinking about the Metroid Prime games, one tends to think about the Metroid Prime Trilogy of games, released across the GameCube and Nintendo Wii. But there was another entry to the Prime games, released in the same time frame on the Nintendo DS, Metroid Prime Hunters. This game, however, suffered immensely due to its cramp-inducing control scheme that certainly earned it a reputation. For those that are unaware, movement was conducted using the left D-pad, and the camera was controlled with the touchscreen alongside other controls, such as the morph ball, changing visors and even weapons. And for a long time, Metroid fans wanting to rerun through the games would skip out on Hunters due to these very controls. On one hand, you have cramp-inducing controls if you play the game on original hardware, and on the other you have an absolute nightmare of a setup when trying to map the game's touch controls to a controller whilst using emulation, with many players resorting to mouse and keyboard with custom written software to make the experience with the mouse more playable due to the issue of it going out of bounds. But what if we could achieve a playable experience with the gamepad? In the run-up to this video, I decided to take a chance at making Metroid Prime Hunters not only playable, but comfortable and familiar with its controls on the Steam Deck via MelonDS. Now, before you turn away, yes, I'll be demonstrating in this video how I specifically mapped controls on the Steam Deck. But the tricks I used to make this control scheme work are universal, and I'll demonstrate this straight off the bat by talking about the Stylus controls for moving the camera. You see, in Metroid Prime Hunters we all remember the cramp-inducing controls, but what we don't remember is this. You see, Nintendo gave us an additional control mode called Dual Mode. In this mode, X, Y, A and B buttons were all assigned to controlling the camera, and we can map these 4 buttons to our right thumbstick to provide us with our familiar camera controls. Now, of course, this isn't going to be as perfect as other games that natively support dual analog sticks, but setting this up in Steam's controller rematting settings or your emulator is almost effortless, and I was more than happy with the experience provided. So that's one pat on the back. We have solved camera movement without even touching the touchscreen or installing custom software specifically for this game. But we still have a fair way to go. Let's not forget that we still have the scan visor, the arm cannon, the missile launcher, secondary weapon, morph ball, all of which are on the touchscreen, and that's not to mention all of the various dialogue box options. The solution here is to again use an unused button of your choice from your controller and assign it to each of these spaces on the screen. Head into the Steam's controller settings, select your controller button and add the following 2 commands: move mouse cursor and left mouse click. In move cursor, manually select the space on the screen you wish to interact with, such as the morph ball. Now, you might find that it is offset a little bit, in which case you'll just have to account for that. If you're struggling to find the exact location on the screen, just use a tiny little knick-knack, like a piece of debris that's just lying around, place it on top of the screen, and then navigate there with the mouse cursor. Now, up on the screen right now, you'll see the controls that I have come to settle on when playing in handheld mode on the Steam Deck. And provided that I successfully figure out how to share the control scheme, there will be a link in the video's description for the control scheme itself, provided I figure that out. This control scheme is dependent on you using a Steam Deck in handheld mode with MelonDS, with the screen layout setting within the emulator itself set to hybrid. There are limitations to these controls, as not everything can be mapped to a button on the controller from the touchscreen. These are menu items, such as those in Samus's ship, and more importantly, the ability to change your secondary weapon from the various options provided. The secondary weapon I find to be an unfortunate one due to the requirement to essentially drag click across to the weapon from the menu bar at the top right. And that's a trick I haven't as of yet learned to figure out in Steam's controller settings. The solution here is simple, however, as these actions are not performed particularly often, and that is simply to touch the touchscreen and interact with these particular controls as intended. To make this interaction even easier, having the layout set to hybrid results in the DS's emulated touchscreen residing at the bottom right of your Steam Deck screen, the most convenient spot possible for those occasional swipes with your thumb when you need to change a secondary weapon or simply launch Samus's ship. If you aren't using a handheld device such as a Steam Deck with a touchscreen, however, and are playing the game on a desktop computer with a controller, then your best option here is to resort to using the mouse ever so briefly, unless you have figured out the trick of mapping the various secondary weapons. And if that's the case and you have figured it out, let us know in the comments section, and if it works, I'll be sure to pin your comment for all to see. So now that I've gone through the game's controls and got them into a playable enough state to play through the game once more without getting hand cramp in our hands every 20 minutes, how does the game stand up in 2024? Of course, the game has all of the exploration and backtracking elements that you'd expect of a Metroid game, although level designs do often feel somewhat repetitive, likely due to the restrictions present when fitting the game into a Nintendo DS cartridge. And aside from when I occasionally walk the wrong way and get lost, I say occasionally, I do it quite a lot, and it's something I do in pretty much every game I play if I'm honest, the level design doesn't weigh the game down for me. Now, the graphics, on the other hand, I really expected this game to be a blurry mess. After all, it was released on the Nintendo DS. But no, if you head into MelonDS's video settings and using OpenGL for 3D rendering, you can drastically improve the game's resolution, sharpening up all those 3D assets in the game and giving it a clean and sharp look. Unfortunately, the pre-recorded cutscenes receive no resolution buffs here whatsoever, so you might want to hold the screen further away from you if that low resolution bothers you for those few cutscenes, or just look away to the smaller screen on the top right, thanks to the hybrid layout. So there we have it. Metroid Prime Hunters, despite its famously awkward controls, is still playable in 2024 using nothing more than Steam's controller settings, and the game's built-in dual mode controls. If you found this video helpful and want to stick around for future Metroid videos, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button or hit like and comment. The more of you that engage with this video, the more Metroid fans will see this video in their video feeds and consider picking up this game again in 2024. And with that, this is Hale, signing off.